Hey, I'm Greg, and this is History Hunters. I'm an amateur archaeologist, and every week my cameraman Dan and I go out and search for the past. Coins, fossils, hidden treasure, you name it. It's all history. And the beautiful thing about history is that we never run out of it. So, let the history hunting begin. Come on, Dan. Hey History Hunters! Today we're at a remote dig site on the hunt for dinosaur bones and any other type of fossils we can find. Now with fossils, you don't just find them walking around here on top of the earth. They're buried deep below the surface. So we're gonna need some essential tools to get down there and break up some of the earth's crust. Now, I'm gonna show you guys the full list of the tools that I use. First and foremost, our trusty shovel. This is gonna help us start to dig that top layer of dirt. Next up, we have my favorite tool of all, the pickaxe. Now, this can break a rock clean in half. You're gonna need this for some of the bigger fossils that you're looking for. And lastly, we got our trusty backpack right here, and inside, some essential tools you're gonna need as a history hunter, brushes. Now, we're not painting anything, we're actually dusting away some of the debris that's on top of the fossil. You gotta be very delicate. But enough talking about the tools, let's start digging. Come on, Dan. So we're putting our shovel to use, Dan, getting that top layer of dirt out. Now, as you can see, we got our dig site roped off to make sure we know exactly where we're digging. Whoa, Dan, it's getting windy. All right, hunters, so we've been out here for about 2 hours and we're getting very close. I can feel it, Dan. And this is where that gravel starts to get a little bit looser. We've been breaking it up with our shovel. Dan, look at this. Oh. Now we gotta get our trusty brush and really start brushing away. I'm starting to see something that looks like maybe a tooth. Wow, I think I was right. Look at that, Dan. Wow, it was a tooth. And a big tooth. A mako shark, possibly. But you know what that means? Water, and lots of it. Dan, hold this. We're gonna take this back to base camp. We gotta get it preserved. All right, Dan, so we made it over to our second location that we have marked off. And now we need to start to use the double brush technique, being very delicate and really just starting to brush off that top layer of dust. And it looks like we got something. It's a little bit shiny this time, not like a tooth. Wow, look at that, Dan. This is actually an ammonite. It's part of the mollusk family, not to be confused with ammonite, the Pokemon. But this is an ammonite, and look at that. Really beautiful. Dan, here we go. Put it in the preserver. We're taking it back to base camp, and I think we gotta find some more goodies. Let's go. Being very delicate with how we move. This looks like our third spot that we have marked off. After a full day of digging, things are finally starting to surface here in the soil. Look at that. This one's big, and by big, I mean kind of small, but look at that. It's a fully intact fossil fish. Wow. Part of the sardine family, it looks like, and it's really hard to get one fully intact like that right there. We gotta get this back to base camp. Here we go, Dan. Let's get our brushes, and let's get moving. This way. Get my whip. All right, so me and Dan just made it back from the dig, and we found a lot of good stuff. Now, we discovered an incredible collection of fossils today. Now, by studying each of them, we can learn so much about our world and its history. Now, these fossils, they go way back, but here they are today, all these years later. Now, it's incredible to think of everything that's happened in the world during that time. Sometimes, history can seem old and dusty, but in reality, it's full of life. The same is true of the Bible. Now, it might seem like some old thing that doesn't really apply to today, but that isn't true. The Bible might be full of history, but it's so much more than some old artifact. It's a map of the past, but it's also a guide for our everyday lives. By reading it, we can grow closer to God and learn how he wants us to live. With Easter around the corner, we can prepare by retracing Jesus' life in the Gospels. Now, the Gospels are the first 4 books in the New Testament that were written by guys that actually knew Jesus in real life. Now, during his time, Jesus was misunderstood by many, but those that truly understood him knew that he deserved to be praised. Now, one woman poured an expensive perfume on Jesus' head as a way of honoring him. Now, rather than selling the perfume or keeping it to herself, she gave it to Jesus to show how important he was to her. Now, a crazy thing to note is that around that same time, there was someone else preparing for the first Easter in a little bit of a different way. One of Jesus' disciples was actually preparing to betray him. I know that might sound crazy, but that's what actually happened. So maybe this Easter, you might start thinking about how you want to prepare. I want to encourage you to be like the woman. We can show God that we value him by giving our time. Now, it might not seem like a very big gift, but God wants us to spend time with him more than anything else. As you prepare for Easter, see if you can find time each week to read about Jesus' life. And when Easter finally arrives, you'll have a much greater appreciation for it. Now, I'm gonna take these fossils and do a little bit more research. Come on, Dan, there's work to do. Let's go.